Hi, everyone. My name is Brenda Rolli. I am an accredited asset management specialist with Provident Financial Consultants here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. At Provident, we believe education is very important to our clients and to others, not only for their investments, but for other topics that impact them as well. That is why we put these monthly webinars together for you. And today, one of the topics that does impact a lot of our clients and possibly you as well is long-term care. So our webinar today is about navigating the financial aspects of long-term care. After today's presentation, you will have a better understanding of how you can help a loved one navigate various options for funding caregiving expenses and other considerations. Our agenda today is where to begin. We're going to talk about paying for care, tax considerations, and what the next steps are. If you have noticed your loved one is showing signs of needing assistance, you might be looking for validation. Is anyone else noticing what I am? Or you may be wondering where to start. Some signs a loved one may need assistance include forgetfulness. Now, most of us misplace things from time to time, but we don't do it on a daily basis. I know I oftentimes have problems forgetting where I set my keys down. While losing those house or car keys and finding them in your bag or between a sofa cushion is not a big deal, locating them in the freezer could be a sign of concern. If we are able to go back and retrace our steps to locate something that, unfortunately annoying, is quite normal. Forgetting appointments, medications, bill payments, those are some items that could be of concern as well. Neglecting household duties such as dirty laundry, dishes left in the sink, and expired food. I would say that expired food is really a cause of concern if it is a long time or there is a lot of expired food in the fridge. A decline in personal care if someone is not eating or overeating. Oftentimes a symptom of forgetfulness and dementia as well is that your loved one may not remember they just ate recently, which can cause weight gain, or for someone that I was very close with, didn't have that feeling of hunger any longer, so they would forget to eat. So that is something to be very concerned about as well. Changes in personality, social withdrawal. Humans are social beings. Withdrawal from friends and loved ones is always a symptom associated with some health problem. Besides depression, social withdrawal can also be a sign of cognitive issues in the elderly population. Why is this? Oftentimes it is due to insecurity regarding their memory problems or their inability to keep up with the conversation. So oftentimes what I noticed is that my father-in-law, he would be very good early on at making excuses for forgetting. They look for little cues from you as well and play off of that. And that's how they kind of hide what they're forgetting. So something to be aware of, as forgetful as they are, some people can also be very good at hiding it. Accidents such as loss of balance, falling, certainly automobile accidents is definitely something that is going to be very apparent and will be a cause of concern. So what do we do once we've noticed that our loved one may need help? First thing to do is start a conversation with the rest of the family. You may actually be surprised to learn that other family members were noticing some of these changes too. You will definitely want to discuss these concerns with your loved one. Make sure they're included. One of the first things to do here is notify other family members and then sit down and talk to the person that you are concerned with. You can use maybe an example of a loved one that they helped in the past that also had some concerns with, and introduce that to this person as well. Asking your loved one about their plans that they may have in place that you weren't aware of. They may have some long-term care insurance, some plans for other living arrangements that have been discussed that you weren't aware of. Listen carefully and stay focused on those concerns. Let your loved one talk about their fears and dreams for the future. They may have some good ideas, and this should be an ongoing conversation as the situation will evolve, and the conversation should too. Remember, this is not about the family or the family's needs or opinions. It is about the individual needing care. So keep it focused on their lives and their wishes, which can be really hard to do. Especially in a large family, a lot of opinions are going to be out there based on maybe some experience. But you need to remember that while those opinions are certainly important, in the end, you really need to listen to the concerns of your loved one and take into consideration all ideas. Creating a strategy and putting that down in writing is a good idea too, so that you can always look back on, and as I said, it's going to evolve, but that's where you can have people come together and put a plan together. So create that after you've talked to everyone in the family. Finally, recommend next steps, like seeking the help of qualified professionals, whether it's long-term care planning, if it's some tax advice. You also want to talk to people that may be important in making some adjustments, which we'll talk about in the next slide. What does the family plan look like? You want to start talking about services that are needed. When developing a family plan, you want to discuss needs and costs, who will pay and who will provide care. So when we look at this, you may need transportation. You can talk to members of the family who is available when to provide transportation. Home health aides, nurses, and snow removal and lawn care. These are all things that may provide a person the ability to stay in their home. Also, home modifications. You may need to look at adding ramps or grab bars. These are things that maybe members of the family can help with. If it's determined some form of daily care is needed, then you may wonder, how are we going to pay for care when that is a concern? When we look at this slide, we want to look at some of the very minimal care needs, which would be adult daycare. Adult daycare is available for the elderly or really anyone of any age that would need that. And this example is based on 5 days per week, $1,603. This is a really good resource right in your community for your loved one to attend, which keeps their cognitive and social skills alive. It also gives a person who is providing care at other times of the day time to go and do things that they need to do, whether it's, meeting up with friends, grocery shopping, things like that. So adult daycare In my opinion, I've used it for my father-in-law at times, and it's really a good resource. A home health aide, that's this cost is based on 44 hours a week. That's something that you are looking at. You could be looking at about $4,500 a month, which when you're looking at then assisted living facilities, a private 1-bedroom apartment is $4,300. So that might be something that you want to look at. What are the benefits of having the home health aide over the assisted living? You know, in the assisted living, you're going to have meals, also social activities. You're going to have a nurse generally is there in the event of a fall, something like that. So it's something to consider. Of course, as your loved one needs additional cares, the assisted living cost is going to increase. This monthly cost of $4,300 is, on my experience, based on maybe a care level 1 or 2. But as I said, as your levels increase, so does that monthly charge. Nursing homes, semi-private room, and a private room, as you can see, those are the most expensive options, and that's where you will most likely need to look at additional options of paying for care. So with these numbers, we are going to look at what are some of our options for paying for care. Of course, you know, people have their savings, they have pension, Social Security income, and they have possibly investments as well. But as you can see by some of those monthly costs, these sources could be depleted fairly soon. So some options, if your loved one has long-term care insurance, obviously that's going to be important to contact the insurance agency and discuss how to begin receiving benefits. Usually there is a requirement that your loved one can no longer perform 2 activities of daily living. Obviously, if care is already needed, you won't be able to purchase long-term care. More Americans have long-term care than people realize. There are people that received it through work. Employers for a time use this as a benefit along with healthcare insurance to purchase. So don't dismiss that somebody may actually have purchased it through their employer. Other options are life insurance. This we see often is someone having a life insurance policy. Number one is a hybrid life and long-term care policy where the policy can be used for long-term care if needed. That, of course, reduces or could even eliminate the life insurance. If they never need the long-term care insurance, then it switches over to a life insurance that would be paid out at death. So that's something that you would want to look at if your loved one has life insurance. Also, if it doesn't have that hybrid life and long-term rider on it, the life insurance company, if your loved one is terminally ill with a life-threatening diagnosis, it may have an accelerated death benefit that will pay out immediately. And of course, then the life insurance would no longer be available, but at least it would be available during this time period. Other options is Medicare. Now, Medicare does not pay for long-term care services, but they will pay for a limited amount. It's a short stay in a skilled nursing facility if your loved one meets certain criteria. They will have had to have a recent prior hospital stay of at least 3 days, and it cannot be a stay for observation. If they are admitted to a Medicare certified nursing facility within 30 days of their prior hospital stay, and they need skilled care, such as skilled nursing services or physical therapy. Medicare will pay for some of the costs for up to 100 days. For example, the first 20 days, Medicare will pay 100% of the costs. Days 21 through 100, you pay your own expenses up to $185.50 per day, and then Medicare pays any balance. After 100 days, you pay the cost for each day you're in a skilled nursing facility. So, as I said, Medicare will pay for some, but certainly not for all, and not anything after 100 days. Another source of income that people forget about, and I didn't even know this was a benefit until I worked with finances for my father-in-law, was VA benefits. This is not an insignificant amount. I was really surprised, and it's not available just for the vet, but also for the vet's spouse as well. One thing I found is you do apply for the VA pension. Once you receive the VA pension or are eligible for that, that piggybacks with the other benefits. So the aid and attendance allowances, housebound allowance, and the VA long-term care services. Now, one thing, the aid and attendance allowances will pay for your long-term or your assisted living home care. So along with maybe a pension, Social Security, and this aid attendance allowance, in my father-in-law's case, this covered his entire assisted living monthly expense for a period of time. Obviously, as those care levels increase, then we had to look at another place, but something that you want to talk to somebody about. And many assisted living homes, they are aware of this, and they will have someone available to help you fill out the extreme amounts of paperwork, because it is a government funded benefit. So, but well worth it. Friends and family, we've seen this too, where people pool money to cover costs. Maybe you're short a few $100s a month, and family members can help out. So financial impacts here to caregivers, it can be quite extreme if, they have to quit their jobs to help pay for care, or, help pay for care or quit their jobs. As a last resort, we're going to look at Medicaid, and that is something that, if it's needed, it is certainly available, and many people do use this as their last option. Remember, Medicaid is a program for the poor, so you do need to have limited income and assets. Medicaid also looks back 5 years to see if there has been transfer of any assets, any gifts. If they do find that, you could be subject to a penalty. So it's important to maybe consider an elder law attorney to discuss strategies with estate planning ahead of time. So if you have some, money, long-term care that is going to help for a year or two, that is that time period where you should be looking at speaking to someone to see what you're looking at further down the line. You not only have to have limited assets, you have to have a low income. While the income limit varies considerably from state to state, it is generally no more than $2,000 for an individual, $3,000 for a couple. There are other things that go along with Medicaid rules that you'll want to talk to someone about to make sure you plan appropriately. Other important considerations are going to be items like your family business. If a family business is involved, how is that going to your loved one not being able to be there maybe every day going to impact that family business? What do we do with the home? If, again, someone can stay in the home, you'll have to make some adjustments, but if not, what will we do with the home? A farm or a special needs child, those are very specific considerations that you may have to address. Also, don't forget the other spouse, the community spouses, as they're called when you're talking about aid and Medicare, Medicaid, is the community spouses now living in the community and possibly taking care for a loved one. What resources are available to them? Again, the adult daycare services, there's respite care, there's a lot of resources out there to use and to look into. You'll want to talk about valued personal items if you're having caregivers coming into the home. What do we do with valuable personal items? And charitable intentions. Is there some gifting that needs to happen and something that your loved one has always thought of as being important? Our next topic is tax considerations. The Tax Cuts and Job Act of 2017 eliminates some personal independent exemptions. Those tax eliminations occur for the tax years 2018 to 2025. The medical itemized deduction threshold, this is the big one that would affect someone who needs care, is now back to 10%. They had reduced it to 7.5% for a period of time, but now it's back up to the 10%. There's tax credits that can reduce a taxpayer's liability. But again, this is a credit. It only will reduce a taxpayer's liability to zero. So when we talk about tax credits, and that's in the next few slides, that's what we're talking about. Regarding the medical itemization, you'll want to track your medical and dental expenses. Medical fees from doctors, lab tests, assisted living residents, home health care, all of those are something you want to track because they may be deductible. Home modifications, those grab bars, handrails, ramps, those are deductible as well as prescription drugs and cost of transportation. So again, when we were talking about transportation needs before, maybe, there are times where family members can help with transportation, but if not, there are many resources available for transportation for a loved one. Some long-term care expenses are deductible as well. The services must be prescribed by a licensed healthcare practitioner. In-home nursing services are tax deductible. Those in-home nursing services could even be completed by a member of the family if they are employed by that in-home nursing service. So something to think about with that. Medical expenses provided in a facility are tax deductible. Remember that, though. We'll get back to that. Medical expenses. Custodial care, ADL assistance, is not tax deductible. If a person is staying at a nursing home, an assisted living facility, or similar care facility only for custodial reasons, only medical expenses are deductible. In this instance, the meals and lodging are not. So assisted living homes, they receive meals, their apartment, those meals and that lodging is not going to be tax deductible. However, the medication, medical expense part of it is deductible. So at the end of the year, what I always did is ask the assisted care home billing department to itemize what was my father-in-law receiving that was considered medical expenses. A loved one that you're caring for and possibly, moved into your home could be claimed as a dependent. So this is something else to be aware of. You must have earned income. The care recipient, the person you're caring for, must be unable to physically or mentally care for themselves. They must live with you for more than half the year, and they may either be the taxpayers, so your spouse, or be claimed as a dependent, or could have been a dependent, except that they are over the gross income limit, file a joint return, or the taxpayer or their spouse is filing a joint return. The care recipient could also be a qualifying child who is a taxpayer's dependent. So that's a whole nother instance, is if it's a child under age 13 and was having care provided for them. Another option to use to help pay for care is a health flexible spending arrangement. So this allows a fixed amount of pre-tax wages to be set aside while you're working. This is something that could have been available to you. The contributions are limited to $2,750 a year. Employers decide whether the plans offer carryover option or if maintain an existing grace period. But the point is, the qualified expenses may include medical expenses not covered by insurance. So think of glasses, LASIK, but co-payments and out-of-pocket medical expenses for a dependent. So again, if you have prescription drugs that aren't covered, glasses, hearing aids, things of that nature that you may be able to use the health flexible spending arrangements for. So let's talk about some next steps. We've talked about, first going from maybe seeing some signs that your loved one needs care to talking with the family and going through and listening to your loved one. You want to, then put together a family plan. Are there family members that are able to help care for the loved one? And then what are the other options that are available, whether it's adult daycare, is it going to be assisted living, home health care? Those are a lot of options that are available out there. And then you also want to, we talked about how are we going to pay for that care, some of those options. Let's talk about some, information that needs to be gathered and put away that is going to be important down the road. You want to put together financial account ownership and beneficiaries. Make sure all that information is up to date. Insurance, online access information. If a person, uses the internet to pay bills, what are those passwords, security question answers, and if those have changed. HIPAA forms, phone numbers, and copy of medical cards. There's anything, some kind of benefit forms that you've filed, for instance, keep copies of those, and prescription medication information. The next topic we're going to talk about, unfortunately, is one we have to discuss as well. When a loved one needs care, we have to be on the lookout for financial exploitation. Some of the red flags I'm going to go over is something to remember and look out for when one of your loved ones become socially isolated and you may not know everything that they're feeling or what they're doing. As we talked about, there's changes in the ability to self-care, and at times then they depend on others for care. And they get very concerned about people that are helping them. They want to help others, and they may start giving money away to their new best friend. It's not always the person that is encouraging this activity, but your loved one may not be understanding what they're doing, how much money they're giving away. But at the same time, you do have to be aware of that new best friend. And unfortunately, family members who repeatedly ask to borrow money. Again, person in the situation is really out there and unfortunately in a position to be financially exploited. If you notice that bills are going unpaid and there's insufficient funds in their account when normally there should be plenty to pay these bills, something else to be concerned about, because that money is going somewhere. If there are sudden unexplained changes to a financial power of attorney or a will, definitely a sign that something is going on. So unexplained purchases of large items, when this is not typical, this is something that I have also experienced, and that can be very difficult to address, but be on the lookout for these and an advocate for your loved one that they are not being financially exploited. Some resources that are available out there for elder care law, you can look up these websites, and we'll leave these up just for a little bit if you want to write them down. The aging issues are Alzheimer's Association, elder fraud, the National Center on Elder Abuse. And this is, as it says, National Center. It's not, just one state. This is for the entire nation, and they will talk to you and get more information and act on it. There's also National Adult Protective Services Association, which is a great organization as well. There's for every area or county in Wisconsin, you have the Aging and Disability Resource Center. That is, there's a book that comes out every year, and the abbreviation is the ADRC. They're going to have a lot of resources. This is a book that I used that was very helpful to me when I was helping someone look for an assisted living home. So you don't have to go see everyone. You can, narrow them down a little bit. So that I would say is a really good resource, but know that there are resources out there and to help you. So in summary, as I said, we've covered a lot. We're, where to begin. That's the hardest part, is recognizing that something has changed with a loved one, paying for care, tax considerations, and your next steps. So thank you for tuning in today. And I hope you have a better understanding of the financial aspects that come along with caring for a loved one. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at info@providentfc.com, and I would be happy to get back to you with those answers. Also, remember, next month, we hope to see you at our next webinar.